We will call the January 25th regular meeting of the West Sacramento Economic Development and Housing Commission to order. And welcome back our clerk. We missed you while you were gone. And would you start us with roll call, please?
Here.
Commissioner Guerra? Commissioner Kim?
Here.
Commissioner Olson?
Here.
Commissioner Singh?
Here.
Chairperson?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Thomas?
All right, and Commissioner Singh, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for attending. We are used to an empty room, so it's pretty exciting to have such a huge crowd with us tonight. If you wish to address the commission or on any agenda item, please fill out one of the request to speak cards. You'll find them on the counter over there and present it to the city clerk prior to the completion of the staff presentation. First, we are starting with item number 1, which is presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of this commission. Commission members are by law prohibited from discussing issues that are not on the agenda brought to them at this time. So, Madam Clerk, do we have any things not on the agenda?
Yes. I have a public comment from Robin Dave.
Hello, I'm Robin, and I live in my 160 square foot, semi-off-grid, tiny home on wheels on my undeveloped residential property here in West Sacramento. I have been asking council and the departments for an affordable pathway to live legally on my property in my tiny home since October of 2020. I've asked my community for support in requesting council to move forward with a tiny home on wheels ordinance so that my home can more easily come into compliance. I've provided a recommendation from the Tiny Home Industry Association, an analysis on how to write a tiny home on wheels ordinance, and an active ordinance example from Santa Cruz County in my written public comment for reference. Much of the code needed for local ordinance is already set out in state law. These can be referenced in a local ordinance rather than written from scratch. We also have templates and checklists on how to put together a permitting process that is easily digestible for the average person. Tiny homes on wheels are a great way for our local government to add to their regional housing needs allocation or RHNA numbers that is required by the state. If the city has to build 2,000 plus housing units according to our city's housing element document, that means approximately half of the total housing has to be low income. Tinies are a great way that we can meet those numbers with zero to no tax subsidies required. Only 7% of the entire United States housing inventory built in the past decade were starter homes or homes under 1,400 square feet. The average tiny home is 186 square feet, while the average traditional standard U.S. home is 2,100 square feet. Approximately 2 out of every 5 tiny home dweller is over the age of 50, and 63% of millennials are interested in buying a tiny home. 65% of tiny dwellers have zero credit card debt, and 78% of tiny dwellers own their home, compared to 65% of traditional homeowners. Overall, tiny home dwellers are diverse and overwhelmingly report having an increased quality of life after going tiny. To reiterate, we have affordable housing advocates, tiny home advocates, legal advisors, and policymakers who support tiny homes on wheels and can help West Sacramento implement this ordinance. We have already done the homework for the city, and we are happy to provide more guidelines, government codes for reference, and examples from across California. We hope to continue to educate and gain more support from the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And do we have any other public comments?
Yes, we do have one from Don Bosley for item number 4.
but it's for item number 4.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we will, Donna, we will wait until we get to that agenda item if you don't mind. All right, so we will move on to item number 2, which are a presentation from Valley Vision on the Community Economic Resilience Fund.
Hi, good evening, Chairperson White and Vice Chair Olson and members of the Commission. Our second item on the agenda tonight will be a presentation by Valley Vision regarding the Community Economic Resilience Fund, also known as SURF. Staff invited Valley Vision to provide a presentation to this commission tonight because the SURF program is a major, one-of-a-kind regional initiative that economic development staff will continue to engage with throughout the year. As you'll hear during the presentation, SURF presents an opportunity to advance economic development and equity goals in West Sacramento and across the region. So now I'd like to introduce Evan Schmidt and Alana Ramsey, who will be presenting and representative from Valley Vision tonight.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks so much for having us. My name's Evan Schmidt. I'm the CEO of Valley Vision. And like Elijah said, we're here to talk to you about this program, the Community Economic Resilience Fund, which is going to be a great opportunity for our region to advance some big picture inclusive economic development goals. We have a PowerPoint that we could go ahead and pull up. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the program and a little bit about Valley Vision, and then I'm going to turn it over to Alana Ramsey. She is our network coordinator for the SURF Coalition, and she'll give you more of the details about the program itself. So while we're waiting for the PowerPoint to come up, I'll tell you a little bit about Valley Vision. Valley Vision is a nonprofit organization. We're located in Sacramento, but we're regionally facing. We've been operating in this region for 27 years. And our sole purpose really is to advance what we call triple bottom line goals. So that's economic prosperity, social equity, and environmental sustainability to improve the livability of communities across our 6 to 8 county region. We do work in workforce. We do kind of healthy communities and food access work. We do work around digital equity and broadband. We do economic development, community development type work. And really work across a really broad spectrum of topics in order to support high quality of life and livability in the region. So you can see on the slide here, we're going to talk to you about the Community Economic Resilience Fund. We can go to the next slide, please, or can I do that? I can do that. Thank you.
Commissioners, if it's not on your screen, if you push the input button.
Okay, so I've already talked to you a little bit about who we are as Valley Vision. The other important thing to know about who we are as Valley Vision is that we do a lot of regional convening, and we advance a lot of actionable research. And so in this instance, we are the regional convener for the SURF program, so for the Community Economic Resilience Fund, which is a statewide program in which the state has organized regions across the state into bodies who can advance these economic development goals. So we're the regional convener for our 8-county region. We're going to tell you more about what that is in order to create this vision for economic development in our here in our 8 counties. And let's see. I actually will turn it over to Alana to talk a little bit more about what the program is, and then I might drop in to talk big picture vision at the end. But Alana's going to tell you about the SURF program, and take it away. Thanks.
All right, hello everybody. Like Evan just mentioned, I am Alana Ramsey. I am the coalition coordinator for the SURF program. So I'm going to just talk to you about what the program is. It's a general state fund that will distribute up to $600 million across regions across California to advance inclusive and low carbon economic development. You can see kind of like on the right of the presentation screen that those are the 13 regions, and in a bit I'll go into a bit more about what our region is. I want to talk first about some of the program objectives of SURF. The first is promoting equitable and sustainable economic development. So the state is really kind of emphasizing this idea of equity, that the program objectives and the outcomes will have better impacts for disinvested communities, and then also include disinvested communities in the process. These communities are typically left out of economic development processes, and so now we are bringing them into the fold. The second one is supporting inclusive economic planning that prioritizes equity, job quality, and sustainability. The state is calling this high road jobs or high road careers. And these are jobs that have growth, are in emerging sectors and industries, as well as not posing risks to health and have living wage. So last but not least, they seek to align and leverage federal and state funding to maximize economic resilience. Coming out of the pandemic, they're really looking to make sure that our economy is able to handle economic shocks, including the pandemic, but also future economic shocks, especially as we are looking to see the effects of climate change. So this is our Sacramento region. It includes the 8 counties of Colusa, El Dorado, Nevada, Placer, Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba. You can see that this is a very kind of large region. We are one of the most diverse regions within this program. We have the Sacramento MSA. We also have our kind of more rural counties of Yuba, Sutter, and Colusa. And then we have these like kind of mountain economies that are in the Placer, Nevada, and El Dorado communities, or counties, sorry. So the program will take place in 2 phases. The first phase is called the planning phase. During this phase, each region will receive $5 million to conduct the planning process. As part of that planning process, the regions will need to stand up what they call a high road transition collaborative, or for the purposes of making things a lot easier for us, we just call it a collaborative. And that collaborative is responsible for creating a regional economic plan. And that's really a strategy looking forward for our region to create economic prosperity. In addition to that regional economic plan, within that plan, the region will need to identify 3 to 5 projects to kind of support in the implementation phase. During the implementation phase, those projects that have been identified to be supportive by the collaborative will compete against other projects within the state for funding. And that funding is the remaining pool of $500 million. So as Evan mentioned, we are the regional convener and fiscal agent for this process. And what that really means is that, one, we're responsible for setting up this diverse collaborative and making sure that we're able to reach the deliverables of the grant program, as well as just carry out the vision of the SURF program and overseeing that $5 million in planning funds. You can see here is our proposed governance structure. So as part of the program, we have to have a diverse group of stakeholders involved in the collaborative. That ranges from workforce, business, CBOs, disinvested communities, labor groups, Native American tribes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this proposed governance structure was actually created back in summer of last year when we went through the application process. We were tasked with coming up with an initial collaborative, and our work is actually just now getting started. So we have the collaborative members, which is our kind of our first level of entry. They'll engage with us by coming to meetings, meeting with us one-on-one, via email, filling out surveys. And then we have these kind of 3 different focus areas. So we have sub-regions, which you can see are represented, and these sub-regions were identified, again, through the application process that happened last summer. We also have our activity-based committees. We have 3 committees: data, research, and evaluation, community engagement, and capacity building and technical assistance. And then last but not least, we have our priority disinvested communities, which have been identified by the state. All 3 of these different focus areas will then have representation on our leadership council, which will steer the process. I'm going to pull Evan back up to kind of talk more about why this is such a great opportunity for our region and what potential it holds for us.
So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about why is this a transformative opportunity for us. The state has a lot of programs, whether it's in economic development or other things. So what's special about this? I think one of the first ways that this is a really special program is, first of all, they're providing a lot of resources for us to do this capacity building work to build a regional vision around inclusive economic development. Valley Vision is an agency that does a lot of planning, rarely has any resources behind this type of activity or, enough resources. So this idea that we can really do the capacity building in communities, really focus on disinvested communities, and put this all behind setting our vision for our region, and then have implementation dollars attached to it. So it's not a planning exercise just for the sake of planning, but it really is a whole comprehensive program where there's resources behind it to support this vision of inclusive economic development. I also think this is a different way of thinking about economic development than we've seen in the past because of its focus on historically disinvested communities. And so the state has done a lot of framing around how are we really elevating community voice and worker voice in order to center strategies on access for those communities. So when we're talking about high roads jobs or good quality jobs, we're talking about living wage, jobs that have some upward mobility, and then creating pathways into those jobs, really listening to communities and developing some strategies around those, and then also having resources to follow up on that. I also think as we look forward, through the planning phase that we're just starting now, where we want to land at the end is a really comprehensive investment strategy for our region around inclusive economic development. And that's going to speak to goals that are much larger than just the SURF program. And so it is an opportunity to really build this investment strategy that articulates what do we need in our region to create the economy that really fulfills our potential and that really speaks to who we are and what we want to create. And that's going to give us the framework to go to federal sources, other state programs, philanthropy, corporate, all kinds of other funding sources in order to really implement the strategies that we identify in that investment plan. So it really speaks to larger program investments than just SURF itself. And I also think that this one-time planning funds is going to help us build our capacity as a region. There's all kinds of ways that we can think about how do we invest these planning dollars. Is it more research that we need? Is it more kind of governance and collaborative systems that help us align, leverage, and advance big, ambitious regional strategies? So it's a real kind of shot in the arm for our region to not only do some planning and visioning around regional economic development in a different way, but also, give us a great launch pad in the future in order to really enact some of those strategies that we see. So that's what I really see as the opportunity behind SURF, and that's what we're really excited to implement coming up soon.
Thank you, Evan. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we see West Sacramento's role and some of the opportunities that we have for West Sacramento for this project, or for this program, I should say. So first is we want to hear from West Sacramento. What are your priorities? What are the challenges you're facing? What are some opportunities here? We want to take that all into account as we're creating these regional economic plans and start to really create this cohesive vision, like Evan said, for our region. Secondly, we're asking you to help us identify other representatives from West Sacramento or Yolo County that can participate in the collaborative. The collaborative will really help drive this process. And so if you want to make sure that West Sacramento's interests are represented on that collaborative as well. And we already actually have some representation from West Sacramento through Diane Richards and Elijah Ortega, who are part of the collaborative. And then last but not least, identifying and activating high priority projects in West Sacramento. So like Evan said, of course, there is an opportunity for funding through SURF, but through SURF, we're also looking to maximize and build capacity for other projects that might be eligible for other sources of funding. So just stay in connection with us is what we're asking for, and hopefully we can partner on this for the next, it's a 18 to 24 month period. Okay, and then I just want to go over some quick next steps. So we are officially kicking off in February. We'll have a kickoff event February 13th. You are all welcome to join us if you would like. And we'll have some contact information at the end of this presentation that you can reach out to if you'd like to attend. In the meantime, we've been continuing our outreach and continuing to build our collaborative. So that's through kind of one-on-one meetings with interested parties and then also doing this outreach to local governments. We're also advancing key research and analysis. One of the first early deliverables of the project is a regional summary analysis, taking into account some of the economic forces in the region. So we have been compiling data and assets so that we can conduct that analysis when the time comes, and also identify what are any gaps that we might have. And then last but not least, we are spreading awareness about the economic development pilot projects, which I'm going to go into right now. I won't tease it or anything. So the SURF economic development pilot projects, the SFP was actually just released in January, and these projects are meant to model projects that could be funded later on in the implementation phase. So these projects are supposed to be kind of like shovel ready and just looking for funding. And they have to meet the core goals of SURF and the core values of SURF, which is, again, equity, job quality, and sustainability. So there's going to be up to $50 million in funding, and they anticipate up to $10 million per a single award. And they're trying to really emphasize this idea of geographic equity. So taking that into consideration, it could mean up to one project per region. The timeline, like I said, the SFP was just released in January. We, as regional convener, are holding a conversation this Friday that will cover more about the requirements to be eligible for that funding. And then proposals are due February 13th, which is coincidentally the same day as our kickoff, but we actually had that date first. And then last but not least, you can see some of the basic eligibility requirements listed below. So thank you for your time here today. Feel free to reach out to either Elijah or Diane or directly to us at surf@valleyvision.org. And if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions?
I guess both question, but I'll start off with the comment. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Very impressive. I guess I wanted to first respond with like the request that you had for West Sacramento, and I'll just give you my first impression. So the first question is like, what are the biggest issues? I mean, I'll just from the folks I've been, communicating with, of course, affordable housing or access to it, as mentioned by one of the public comments. Then there is more market rate housing and strategic development along the riverfront and here in West Sacramento. Very exciting, but also addressing existentially public infrastructure, because public infrastructure is not equal all throughout West Sac. Who else could be involved? I think West Sac's some of our greatest strengths would be the Southport industry, so distribution centers and a lot of ag tech that have come into West Sac, very exciting. And of course, because West Sac has rural elements, a lot of ag interests as well. And then what other projects? And this is what was interesting, because I was thinking about, yes, there's a lot of exciting projects that the city is already planning long range, but if you're thinking about regionally, where it could be connected, like leverage off like other projects or other ideas that throughout the region. And so my question is, whenever you do regional planning, noting that it's an iterative process, there's limited money, resources involved, limited time involved, I think it makes sense going into the planning with a framework like a working hypothesis of what is our strategy, so we can be as efficient with all 8 counties' times, and we can come with a product or a vision that's as practical, feasible, and realizable. Do you have like a working hypothesis of what you think that strategy might look like?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for that guidance and thoughts about priorities in West Sacramento. And yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to kind of come in with an idea of where we might be going. So one thought that we have, or one thing that we're building on, I would say, is our regional prosperity strategy. That's our comprehensive economic development strategy for the 6-county region. And in that, we identify 3 key high-growth sectors. So that includes the food and ag sector, the clean transportation and mobility, and health and life sciences. And so I think that's a great place to start as we think about where are our opportunity clusters where we know that there's space to grow. I also think if you think about the SURF opportunity, it's inclusive, low carbon. So we really want to be thinking about how are we transitioning to a lower carbon economy, and where are our assets in that. And so if you look at those sectors like food and ag and clean transportation in particular, there's a lot of potential there to really be thinking about what are low carbon occupations in our region. And I think that we could do some research to flesh that out a little bit more and get real specific about it. What kind of skills do we need to train for? How are we preparing our markets as we move into the future? And how do we think about some of these jobs in terms of what we need right now and then what we're aspiring to into the future? And so I see a lot of potential. I'll even note that the transportation and logistics sector is our fastest growing sector right now. So I see a lot of potential in that space. I also, Alana mentioned this is an 8-county region. It's a very diverse geography. So, when we think about preparing people for, let's say, transportation and logistics in a low carbon economy here in Sacramento and West Sacramento, that might look really different than it does up in Colusa County or in Tahoe. So there's a lot of diversity in the character of the communities that we're going to be working with. And I think this idea of really regionalizing strategies in the sense that we're being specific across our rural, suburban, urban landscapes of what does that look like there and how does it all tie in together. So, I don't know that it's a total working hypothesis, but I would say it's some real assets that I think we can build on in a direction that we can get started. Because I think that one thing that's incredibly important as we think about, these resources is that we do something impactful. This isn't the type of opportunity where you want to do a little thing here, little thing here, little thing here. We want to really think about what are some of our big moves as a region. And so I think those, being very focused on inclusive opportunities around our low carbon economy, particularly in our high growth sectors, would be good strategies for us.
Thank you.
Other comments? I have to tell you all, this is not the first time I've seen this presentation, so I want to go last on my comment.
Well, yeah, thanks for this presentation. But I'm just getting everything generalized, carbon footprints and labor issues and all that. You have a specific, short example of what you're working on or some proposal came out? Because I didn't get any specific. I mean, you're talking generalized with the 8 counties, but do you have any particular short version of any proposal, or do you have anything in mind you can share with us?
Yeah, sure. One of the last things Alana was talking about was the pilot project opportunity, which is really kind of the starting point for the state as they're thinking about how to get things rolling. And so to speak a little bit of the kinds of things that we're seeing talked about in that space, looking at small minority business and the supply chain around electrification of building and transportation. So how is it that small businesses can make inroads into whether it's procurement or kind of manufacturing infrastructure or other ways that that these business owners can kind of feed into that pipeline and maximize their participation in it in order to grow their business. So, that's a workforce program, it's kind of an awareness program, and it's a technical assistance program for small business. There's some place-based things that we've seen. So, you might be familiar, this is a Yolo County example, the Yolo Food Hub and the Alchemist organization working on the public market in order to kind of help centralize food production and create a centralized space for that. That's a program that could be really eligible for SURF funding. If you look further afield, out in the region, the Yuba Sutter area is a real center for heavy duty trucking. What would it look like if we started trying to look for cleaner technologies around heavy duty trucking, and how might we influence that center in order to reduce pollution and infuse that sector with new types of jobs and new skills. So I think, we're talking workforce programs, we're talking potential place-based investments, we're talking, I think some like barrier reduction to employment and career awareness type things that, there's many examples that we could pull, but hopefully that gives you kind of a little bit more of a picture of the types of things that we might be thinking about.
Sure. So the February 13 is the proposal day for all 8 counties or just one region or?
So, the state has basically opened up $50 million for this pilot program, for this kind of first round of programming around surf. And they're looking for projects that really conform to the kind of values and parameters of the surf program. But it's also, because it's coming so soon and we haven't even started organizing our coalition, it's held a little bit separate in the sense that anybody can apply for it. You don't have to get signed off by the coalition. It's not something that is written into our plan yet because we haven't written the plan yet. And they've also opened a really short period of time in order for this application to be open. So they just opened it, and it's due February 13th. So they're looking for programs that are like ready to go. We already know what we're doing. Maybe we already have some of our funding, and we just need that last push to get, to really get it off the ground. So it's a little bit different. And, if you talk about the whole program for implementation has $500 million attached to it for the state. This is the first $50 million. There'll still be $450 million down the road to do some more of this development work around putting projects into the pipeline.
Have you identified any projects in West Sacramento that could have a proposal ready by February 13th?
So I will note that we have been kind of inventorying when people are interested in advancing programs. We haven't been doing program development, and just, insider baseball, we're not even contracted for this program yet. We're just launching next month. So I have, aside from the kind of the Yolo County-based public market work, I haven't heard of something specifically coming out of West Sacramento. We are having an information session on Friday, a virtual meeting at 11 a.m. to share more information about the pilots, hear from anybody who's planning on doing an application, trying to kind of set up some collaborative framework for people who are interested in it, and make sure that our region has some good programs going in. But we have not been going out and developing, or we haven't had a chance to do that. That will come later in the program.
Okay.
I can tell you that a West Sacramento company is submitting an application on the 13th.
Great. Well, we want to learn more about that too.
I think you already know about it.
Oh.
We're working with CMC, with Michael Bell from CNC on it. So
yeah.
I think
We
you
do
already
know about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
So I just want to bring one other thing. As we look at high road jobs and things that are going forward, and I know those are really important. I want to make this group aware of something that is really near term and is an economic deterrent right now. We have a group of mostly women in Yolo County who took a beautician's class that was taught in Spanish. And so they have taken the class, and now they are trying to take the test to pass the test to get their cosmetology license. The test is offered in Spanish. All 5 of them have failed the test 3 times now because the test is incomprehensible in Spanish. The Spanish test has 30 questions more than the English test, so they can't even match them up. And all of the answers are given in English instead of Spanish. And so I think if this is happening at the cosmetology test, then this has got to be happening in other things that we're doing for people who gets licensed as well. So I would really encourage part of this collaborative to understand how we are keeping people from getting jobs that they've trained for, and look to see if we can fix some really broken systems.
That's a really poignant example of a huge miss in terms of creating not only inclusion, but logical and thoughtful certification programs. So thank you for that. And I think that's something we'll definitely take back as well.
Quick question. How big is your staff?
I'm sorry?
How big is your staff? How many?
We have our overall Valley Vision staff is about 20, and on the SURF program itself, we will have 3 full-time folks plus some senior leadership that are involved. And then a lot of this program is really about, and what I always say is Valley Vision's creating the container. So we're kind of staffing the effort and staffing the coalition. But this is really about getting money into the community too. So when we think about doing, kind of advancing priorities and building capacity and doing community engagement, we're really going to look to other community partners who are doing that work and try to create opportunities for people to build their own capacity in order to be responsive to this. So, we're thinking about outsourcing quite a bit of the grant in order to get that money out into the community.
So, and you mentioned you haven't got a contract from the state yet. So you have done all the legwork. Is that counted somewhere, or how does that process work?
We applied in July, and we did quite a bit of front loading to start, kind of kickstart the coalition and get it going for our region. This is a new program for the state, so they've had some delays and things like that. We are right on the verge of wrapping up our contract and launching, I think, February 1st. So I would say we've been doing development work. We've been, really trying to keep the momentum going through a rather long time period, and we're really enthusiastic to get the program kicked off.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none. I do
Well,
want
actually, I
to,
do have a question.
okay, go for it.
If a business was to apply to be part of the February 13th decision or presentation, is there a place where they would go? Where would you direct somebody to go and try and get their business involved?
So you can go to our website. Maybe Alana's the best for answering this question, but it's up on our website for the launch event. There's actually two things happening on February 13th. There's applications due for this pilot program, and that's a state deadline. It doesn't have anything to do with us. And then we're also having our launch, like our surf launch kickoff meeting that is a hybrid meeting. And for that, we'd be happy to follow up and send information to you all. But you can go to our website, or you can email us at, yes, right there, surf.valleyvision.org for more information.
And it's also in your agenda report, the link to their website and the surf too in your agenda report.
I just wanted to clarify that we have received the award from the state. They announced the awards for the program back in, I think it was early November. So we are just waiting on the contracting. It's not like, is this actually happening or not? It's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have two questions, if I may, Madam Chair. Are there, what's the best way for West Sacramento to, have a seat at the table, since we are a smaller jurisdiction? We're members of the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. We participate actively with our Workforce Investment Innovation Board. Any suggestions for us to, sort of leverage and partner with more entities in YOLO and West Sacramento to make sure that we, have some local benefit, especially for our disadvantaged communities?
Yes, thank you. Great question. And I first want to just note that I really see West Sac as an economic development engine for the region. You all have so much good stuff going on here in your city. And this program is really, as we're designing this program, we're thinking about how do we really elevate smaller jurisdictions, because if you're, to really create an effective regional container, everybody has to be represented and everybody has to feel like they have a voice as we're creating this vision together. And so, joining the coalition, getting involved in subcommittees, we're also, as we go through the planning process, we're going to be thinking about some very jurisdiction-centric engagements. So I'm sure that will look like roundtables and, a variety of other ways that we're going to make sure we're really elevating priorities coming out of jurisdictions from across the region, and having a mechanism that that jurisdictional voice is heard as we're creating that investment strategy and creating priorities around that.
Are you aware of a regional proposal for the February 13th pilot project?
I'm aware of quite a few, maybe 5, something like that, and more might come out at our Friday meeting. But again, I just, this is one where anybody can apply, and I know there's, we've been communicating and trying to make sure people are aware of the opportunity, and this, the state's going to be the state's going to be the decider about that and the organizer of that.
Wait. Norman, I have a final question, or for me, when you are deploying the funds, internally, once the funds are made available, what percentage do you think would be going directly to municipalities versus like other nonprofits locally or, industry?
Well, there's there's kind of the functional roles that different entities might play. So, helping do community engagement, helping, build capacity in disadvantaged communities. And for that, it will almost all be kind of open RFP processes in which jurisdictions or nonprofits or other types of entities are able to apply. So it's hard to say what percentage that would be, but we'll really kind of assess that on a case-by-case basis. When we think about the implementation dollars and how we're going to be applying as a region to SURF implementation, I would say that's going to be major regional projects that could be led by jurisdiction, it could be led by business. There's a variety of different ways that those could kind of come into being, and we won't really know what the sources of those are until we all together as a coalition really kind of develop what those programs are.
Just one more. Can we get a copy of the presentation?
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Please.
Yes, I can provide that for you.
Thank you.
All right, hearing no more, we're going to thank you very much, but I'm also going to say that it's wonderful that Valley Vision won this award to be the administrator because they are a very comprehensive organization that recognizes that Sacramento Valley is not a city in a different county than us. They're very inclusive. Everything we've done so far over the years with Valley Vision has really thought about what happens in our farms and the rural areas and Colusa County and these far-flung places. So I think this will be a great project, and I'm so glad you guys won it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that and really appreciate the time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to agenda item number 3, which probably won't have a lot of comment or discussion. A consideration of approval of the minutes of our November 30th meeting. I need a motion to approve the minutes, and remember to state your name for the record, please.
Chairperson White, I apologize for.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask if there were any comments.
Yes, there is a public comment from Robin Davis.
Okay, I am so sorry. I'm so not used to having public.
Just after hearing that, I just want to add that tiny homes align well with the purpose of this SURF pilot program and the housing needs of West Sac. Tiny homes only use 25% of the average traditional home's utility usage, produces 5,578 pounds less CO2 each year compared to the average home, and can lower greenhouse effect by 36%. Tinies can help disadvantaged communities have a chance at home ownership, which has been a major barrier for many generations. So tinies definitely support the ideas of equity, sustainability, environmentally friendly goals of this program. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments?
Not for this item, no.
Chairperson White, could I ask a question?
You can respond to that because it was an agenda item.
It wasn't part of the agenda. Excellent. Do you mind if I ask a question? It's very logistical. How could I learn more about it after this meeting?
So I added in a written public comment to you guys, an email that had the examples of Santa Cruz ordinance, how to write a tiny home on wheels ordinance, very specific things. So it's all written and ready for West Sacramento. I've been asking for over 2 years now. So we have so many people supporting this, and we're gaining more support in the community. So we really just, I'm just coming here and just spreading the word, really. It's really, up to council to push it forward. So trying to show up, educate, show that this is happening all over California. It's being implemented already. So it's going to happen. And if we need a pilot program, I've been on my property technically illegally for over 1.5 years now. So that's enough of a pilot program to me. And I've been, kind of off grid as well. And I've had support from my neighbors. We have a Facebook group, West Sacramento Tiny Home on Wheels group, Tiny Home Group. So definitely check that out. We're gaining support. We just started that last week. And we have over 60 followers now from the community. So lots of interesting questions that come from the community. We answer them. We post. There's all different kinds of things that Tiny Home on Wheels can help with. And there's a diverse need for them. For minimalism, for environmentally friendly, for low income, for unhoused people, housing unhoused people. So it's very diverse need and can help a lot of diverse needs. So yeah.
Thank you.
Go on and on. But
I just want to say I'm a huge advocate for the tiny home push that's going on, and I joined the Facebook group, and I would love to talk more about it with you at a later point. So
okay,
I'll
awesome.
message you on
can
there or
post
something.
on the
Yeah.
questions. Cool.
Yes, and the counties that have approved of the tiny homes, has that had an impact on their homelessness rate?
So they're fairly new. We haven't heard too much. Like the Santa Cruz one was just implemented this month.
Oh.
So we're waiting, and that one's specifically for Tiny Home on Wheels. And it's just a perfect example of something that we could use here for my personal situation. But it streamlines the process in getting Tiny Home on Wheels as primary residences, as cluster communities, as a backyard, to be in backyards, as ADUs. So it just streamlines the process to make it a lot quicker rather than having a lot of red tape. So yeah, it's all in the email as well.
Okay.
I know
Drew, did you want a copy of all the materials that she provided?
Yes.
Yeah.
So really, we just
Sounds
need
excellent.
council to really push this forward. The departments are reluctant. They view it as camping, and we've presented facts where this is not camping. And the current policies that we have, the failed current policies, actually promote camping. So this is a way to get people to come into compliance and to actually have shelter. Right now, we really just don't have that. So it's an option, another option for people.
So I do want to remind our commissioners at the end of this, you can ask for something to be placed on a future agenda that would enable more members of the public to have time to know that they can participate in a conversation. Not telling you what to do.
I move we do that right now.
You have to- So I just don't want to have a great big conversation without
We'll
it
be
having
at the
been
next
public
council
noticed.
meeting. We're on Facebook. We're gaining support. We're very available. We post events to go to. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Do we have other further public comment?
No, we do not.
All right, let's move on to agenda item 3, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve? Remember to state your name, please.
Commissioner Kim, motion to approve the minutes from November 30th.
And a second?
Commissioner Singh, seconded.
Okay, Commissioner Kim motioned, seconded by Commissioner Singh. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and then we are opening our regular agenda, and that is item number 4, to announce the availability of the 2023 Community Development Block Grant. I know y'all thought we were never going to talk about this again.
Isaiah, before you get started, Chair White, I apologize. I have a emergency I have to run. My apologies, Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairperson White, members of the Commission. My name is Isaiah Alford. I am the Community Investment Specialist in the EDH Department. The purpose of this presentation is to announce the availability of the 2023 Annual Action Plan, the 2023 CDBG funding for the Annual Action Plan. After the presentation, staff requests that the Commission open a public hearing to take any comments, and upon closing the public hearing, staff requests the Commission to provide comments regarding the goals of the 2023 CDBG funding. In 2016, the City of West Sacramento became an entitlement jurisdiction, which enabled the city to receive funding directly from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. A requirement of the CDBG program is to develop a consolidated plan, which must occur every 5 years. The 5-year consolidated plan must examine the needs of low-income persons and neighborhoods. CDBG funds must be used to address one of 3 national objectives. The city must develop an annual action plan which allocates CDBG funds for activities to achieve the goals of the 5-year consolidated plan. So there are 3 national objectives. The first national objective benefits low and moderate income individuals. The second is the prevention or elimination of slums and blights. And the third national objective is an urgent need, which is something unexpected, such as a tornado or a flood. It's important to note that 70% of the jurisdiction allocation must be used to benefit low to moderate income individuals. And national objectives were used to establish goals of the current consolidated plan. The CDBG program is a strict funding source, but allows entitlement jurisdictions to use the money for a wide range of activities. These activities can be acquisition and rehab of affordable housing, construction and rehab of public facilities and public infrastructure, and economic development activities can also be used for senior, youth, and homeless programs. And any service activities are capped at 15% of the total allocation of any given year. So here's the current consolidated plan from 2021 through 2025. There were a total of 6 goals that were identified with this consolidated plan. And City Council approved the consolidated plan in April 2021. So goal number 1 addresses homelessness, which has been a key focus of the council strategic plan for the past 5 years. Goal number 2 addresses homelessness by creating housing opportunities. Goal number 3 is to provide infrastructure improvements in neighborhoods suffering from disinvestment. Goal number 4 is to provide fair housing services, education and counseling to low and moderate income residents and landlords. Goal number 5 is to support small businesses by strengthening economic opportunities for small businesses and employment. And goal number 6 is the preservation of affordable housing stock to provide housing rehab funding for single-family units. These goals represent the needs that were identified during the consolidated plan process. However, not all of the goals will be achieved nor funded with CDBG funds. So here are some previous activities and projects that were funded by CDBG over the past couple years. The picture to the right displays the PSH project. The city committed 2017 and 2018 CDBG allocations to support the development of a permanent supportive housing project that specifically target homelessness. And these are individuals with serious mental illness or those at risk of chronic homelessness. This project was completed in December 2021, and as a result, 100%, the project was 100% occupied with tenants. The second project was the North Riverwalk Trail Extension Project. In 2016, CDBG funds were used for the design improvements to a section of the Riverwalk Trail which connects to I Street Bridge. This project benefits low-income residents in Census Tract 101.01 and provide ADA accessibility to persons with mobility impairments. The project is currently underway in the construction phase as of today. With the 2020 and the 2022 annual action plan, the city allocated funds towards the Washington and Broderick Lighting and Safety Project. This project objective was to improve pedestrian safety and visibility by replacing and updating street lights and traffic signals throughout Washington and Broderick neighborhoods located within Census Tract 101.01. In 2019, the $60,000 were allocated to fund a micro-enterprise technical assistance program for low to moderate income individuals owning or working towards owning their own business, in particular a small business in West Sacramento. Due to the pandemic and coronavirus, the project started in 2022. The city partnered with the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to operate the program. As a result, a total of 24 business workshops were conducted in English and Spanish for participants to receive technical assistance, and a total of 17 small businesses were assisted. Fair housing services have been funded $21,000 every year of the current consolidated plan, and Home Key Supportive Services at 817 West Capitol Ave primarily serves the homeless population, in particular with case management. So how are activities selected? Not all eligible projects are good uses for CDBG funds due to federal regulations and requirements. So staff attempts to be strategic when selecting projects, and staff attempts to use projects that are ready to move forward and will not expend an undue amount due to federal requirements like our timeliness test every year. So we use CDBG funds to leverage other private, state, and federal funding sources. So HUD has not announced the CDBG allocation for the 2023 year as of yet, but it's likely the city will receive an amount closely similar to the current 2022 program year of $470,478. All right, so here's a schedule of the 2023 Annual Action Plan process. The first steps of the 2023 Annual Action Plan is to present before the EDH Commission and the Parks Commission. With recommendations and comments received from both commissions, we plan on formulating the 2023 Annual Action Plan draft and make it available for a 30-day public comment period in mid-month of February. And then staff plans on presenting before the City Council to receive comments on the Annual Action Plan draft, and then returning back to the City Council for adoption of the 2023 Annual Action Plan. So this concludes my presentation. Staff requests that the Commission open a public hearing to take any comments. And upon closing the public hearing, staff requests the Commission to prioritize goals of the 2023 CDBG funding. Thank you for your time. I'm open for questions and comments.
And Isaiah, thank you so much for that presentation. And just to make sure that we're all clear on the guardrails and the parameters here, we had previously talked about our multi-year funding program and decided upon our big topic areas and where should things go. And now we're just talking of our multi-year plan. We're talking about this year's funding.
Correct.
So we can't just go off on a wing and just pick something like tiny homes that's not already part of our our multi-year plan.
Well, we're trying to take as many comments as possible on the current year or the next 2023 year. So yeah, just keep in mind that it is for the 2023 fiscal year.
Okay, so with that, first we'll start with comments and questions from the commissioners. And I know we have some public comments this time.
Yes, I have one. I know you talked about it, but I just wanted to clarify, where exactly are we with the Washington Broderick Lighting and Safety Project?
That's a great question. Currently, the project is scheduled to go to council on February 2nd. As soon as we receive approval from the City Council, we'll be able to expend funds on the Washington Broderick Lighting Project. And that's anticipated for us to purchase materials and later do an installation of those streetlights within this next couple of months.
Is this the project that keeps getting rolled over? Is this the 5th and 6th Street?
I think you're mentioning the ENF Street project.
Yes.
Okay.
This is different?
Yeah, this is different.
Okay.
So you had a question regarding that project?
No, I've been up here for 4 years, and it seems like
Okay.
that at the end of every year, we do an emergency vote to move those funds. So I was just wondering if that was coming along.
That's a great question, actually. So with that project, we reallocated funding for other projects because that project was stalling due to we
Environmental
were waiting
review.
for SHPO to approve cultural resources on that project. So we anticipate getting SHPO clearance within the next few weeks. So if we do get a letter from SHPO, we plan on reallocating funds to that project so we can move forward.
All right, thank you.
And I want to ask you a follow-up question on that. When we last talked about, I'm sorry, I know you're talking about next year, and we're asking you about last year. When we had talked about the street lighting project the last time, you were also going to look into see if PG&E was going to kick into the bucket. Was there anything from PG&E?
I haven't heard anything from
Okay.
PG&E as of that project, but I can do further research and get back to you on that.
Oh, I don't need you to spend time on that. Thank
Okay.
you, though.
Problem.
A question. So for this upcoming 2023 year, are there any projects the city has been anticipating or hoping to continue to do or to initiate, but because of, current market conditions and the slowdown and, variety of issues that you're rethinking because it may stall and may pivot to something else?
That was more of the ENF street, actually. So we had to pivot to other projects due to the cultural resources, like I was mentioning. But if we do receive the SHPO clearance, we should move forward with that project, and we should reallocate funds. This might take a multi-year allocation to expand that project. But if the commission wants us to consider that project to move forward, then we would definitely look into that project as one of the primary activities and project.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, you had mentioned 17 small businesses were assisted. What type of assistance was provided?
So with the technical assistance, Oscar Garcia from his Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, he led the workshops, and there was a lot of technical assistance provided to these small businesses. It was teaching participants how to start a business, the accounting side of starting a business, as well as how to market your business. It was really great to be a part of that and just to see what the Hispanic Chamber provided. And then ultimately they wanted to get these businesses up and running and get their license to start their business. So I can give you further information once I obtain your email.
And I'll just mention too, for all of the folks watching at home, and Commissioner Thomas is an alternate, so you missed the excellent presentation we got at the last meeting. So there is a great presentation about how that program rolled forward and what they want to do next on our commission meeting packet from last time.
Very good. I'm looking forward to
So
learning more.
everybody at home too, you can watch it live. Watch it, record it. Other comments from the commissioners? Hey, I think we have some public comment.
Yes, we have a comment from Don Bosley.
Good evening, members of the commission. Thank you for the chance to speak to you a little bit tonight. I'm Don Bosley. I'm the executive director of the Mercy Coalition here in West Sacramento. I'm joined by Paul Kalorick, the executive director of West Sac Housing Development Corporation. And I say I'm joined because we have a project that is relevant to the CDBG discussion that we would like to begin to put on your radar. This afternoon at the Recovery Cafe of West Sacramento, a woman named Lisa walked through the door pumping her fist. She's in her 50s, and the whole cafe cheered for her. She used to be homeless for many years, went through Project Room Key, went through Project Home Key, got housing at the Mercy Housing Complex, and now comes the Recovery Cafe. She came there today and she celebrated that she was 21 days clean and sober. The cafe erupted for her. I asked her when was the last time she'd been 21 days clean and sober. she said, when she was 17. Behind the espresso machine there at the Recovery Cafe is a gentleman who's become known as Java Joe. He is one of our employees for the coalition. He used to be homeless. Bridge to Housing brought him into housing. He has a house now at Washington Courtyard, West Sac Housing property, and a job with us after working for years at the Downtown Streets team. Those are two examples, and I could give you a whole lot more if that clock wasn't running, of what we call restorative community. We have emergency services. As a city, we've made great progress on that. The restorative community is creating places of support. That's what the Recovery Cafe is. We have an opportunity before us in this joint venture that we're on with West Sac Housing. There are parcels that are available to us across the street from where the Recovery Cafe is at Community Lutheran Church. And we have a dream of building a village, what we're tentatively calling Mosaic Village. A place where we would begin to do sober living environment housing options, as well as office and case manager space for us and our partners at Downtown Streets, potential partners with other agencies who are serving those who are homeless and those who are struggling in mental health. We've had a preliminary discussion with city staff and presentation there. Would love to tell you more about it if we have opportunity, but I want to put it on your radar. We have a chance to do something really, really special with a whole block of West Sacramento that will augment the emergency services we've already done. We're talking about job training. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about partnership with Downtown Streets and other agencies. We're talking about an all-day, all-the-time supportive community surrounding people who are moving forward. Mosaic Village is what it's tentatively called, and you'll hear more about it, but I'm really excited about it. Paul and his board are very excited about it, and we really look forward to a chance to share a little more with you about it as it unfolds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments?
No, we do not.
Okay. Any further discussion from our council commissioners?
Yes, I do have a question and just a clarification for the city staff, or like regarding this specific comment. Was this in regards to a project to be considered for the CDBG potential funding deployment, or like why was this public comment now, I guess?
I can try to answer that, Commissioner. Certainly, yeah. So if you recall, one of the comments that Mr. Alford made is that the 5-year consolidated plan has 5 primary goals that we have to achieve during that 5-year planning period, right? 2 of those are related to homelessness and services to homeless. We did have an initial meeting with Mr. Bosley and Mr. Koleric about their vision for this project. It does fit within those parameters that our 5-year consolidated plan calls for. So we certainly think that it is a project worthwhile exploring. As you also heard from Mr. Alford, we have a lot of other activities that we also need to consider. One of them being E&F Street, which one of the commissioners asked about, because it's a project that we have had to delay because of the issues that we had with the State Historic Preservation Office in getting their approval due to the cultural resources that were found. At this point, we're not ready to commit that that project is going to be moving forward. The last conversation that we've had with our capital projects team is that they're very close to getting a verbal notification from SHPO that they have approved the plan to deal with those cultural resources. Once that happens, then we can continue with our environmental review process so that we can complete our NEPA review. Once that happens, then we can start thinking about actual construction, procurement, and getting the project to actually begin construction. So, it's still going to be a while. So I think, at least as of today, we don't have the certainty that we'll be able to tell you that, yeah, we're going to be moving forward with ENF, because we're not there. As you all know, as you've mentioned, we've had to reallocate funding that we allocated for multiple years into other activities because the SHPO approval has taken so long. And at this point, we're not ready to commit any additional funds because we need that money to be spent, right? An activity like Mosaic Village, I think is very compelling, but it's also an activity that's going to require additional resources, not just CDBG, right? CDBG is not going to be able to fund the entire project, but CDBG could be a component of either the acquisition of the sites or any rehabilitation that may be required of those sites to actually accommodate what they are attempting to do. So from that standpoint, I think it is an activity that is at least worthwhile exploring and seeing if we can find a way to make it work with CDBG funds and some additional funding, if there is some additional funding that may be available out there, whether it's private, additional local funds, state funds. There's other funding out there, but it does fit within our CDBG parameters, that I can tell you, and it would meet at least two of those goals in our 5-year consolidated plan.
I just have one point I want to make sure I'm clear on. I thought we couldn't use CDBG funds for acquiring land. We could use it to rehabilitate land or build infrastructure, but not to buy property. Am I wrong?
No, we can. So
Okay.
it can be used for acquisition of property. What it cannot be used for, though, is for new development.
Okay. All right, Dan? Dan had his hand.
I did have my hand up. I just wanted to comment that the Mercy Housing, all the funding and grants, all of that happened before I was here. But I do think it's probably one of the more exciting things that has happened in our community, and was very impressive with the way so many different grants from different agencies were applied for and approved to have that built, which I think holds 83 or 84 people.
85 units.
85. And so, I think that if it's the same group of people with the same type of vision that working on the Mosaic, it would be just an excellent thing to do and to see what kind of funds could be put into that. That's all.
And so just to clarify, the Permanent Supportive Housing Project was developed by the Mercy Housing California, which is different from the Mercy Coalition. But I know that the Mercy Coalition has worked very closely with Mercy Housing California and some of the other nonprofits that provide services at the PSH project.
Thank you for that clarification, actually. I was confused because I know folks from Mercy Housing California as well. I guess I had a question for either Mr. Bosley or the staff. They know that the answer to this. But for Mercy Coalition and West Sac Housing, noting that there may be, very limited funds available at this point for CDBG, and there's projects already with the line, what other outside funding have you secured, or are you working on securing that to kind of offset the limited funds that may or may not be available in CDBG?
That's a great question. I think Raul or Don can answer on that behalf.
Or Paul?
The property has just become available, like in the last 3 weeks. We've been sketching stuff on napkins for about 8 years about different ways this could go. And so we are exploring what the funding possibilities are, but we have had discussions with the county already. There's great interest there in that program. And we think as we continue to explore, we will be able to put together a partnership of funding that's going to be able to make that happen.
Don, when you say the property across the street, across which street, which property?
Yeah, so the Recovery Cafe exists within Community Lutheran Church. We roll up the church every Monday morning, put in a cafe, roll it back down Friday afternoon, put the church back. Cross Drever Street there. So on the same side of the street is the VFW Hall. There is a 2-story building that held Comfort Care for a while, and then a 1-story building that had been vacant for quite a while, and they've rehabbed them all, and now there's also 2 smaller vacant lots, and they need money for another investment, and so they're making them all available together as a package at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments that our team can take back, chew on, think about for when they come to us with their investment plan? I too have to say I'm really supportive of the Mosaic, and since I've lived here, I guess 35 years ago, when I was a member of Community Lutheran, we were designing something then, and I actually came to Planning Commission with this brilliant idea that involved yurts on that property. So things take a while to come around, man.
So I guess I do want to share a comment. I mean, I like the vision of Mosaic Village. It sounds beautiful, wonderful for all the variety of reasons, the services provided, the different service providers on site. I'm just thinking about just the challenges of building affordable housing right now, new construction affordable housing, or just housing in general. Like even like some of the most premier projects right now are all stalled. And just supply chain, interest rates, I mean, you name it, a variety of reasons that are all stalled. So finding private industry partner may be challenging. I mean, I know there's a lot of state funding that's going to be unlocked, but again, with just like the limited resources and time of city staff and all of the above, it just seems like a lot of challenges. But is there a way for us to learn more about it? Do you have a website or a Facebook group?
Yeah, we have. Oh, are you talking about the
Mosaic Village?
That's a question I think Don.
I think they have napkins, is what they said.
Okay.
Sorry about that one thing.
They're colorful. What I have that I could share with you is a slide deck that has a whole lot of photos that would be right that I've shared with city staff already. I'd be happy to make that available, and you could get some visual. Yes, there is a hope down the line that we would be able to do potential new development, but the existing buildings, without a whole crazy bunch of rehab, have some ability for us to pilot the first iteration of that sober living environment program. We can do that in the downstairs of the 2-story building right now. And if you get a look at the slide deck, you'll be able to kind of get the visual of what we're talking about. Not irrelevant to this also is that the church sits on a piece of land. On either side, the church has open land that it owns. And very much wants to live into a vision that of the Mosaic Village, where that may include more housing units developed by West Sac Housing, that may include something like an urban farm. So you've got all these overlapping potential spaces around the village there. So I know I'm way over my 30 seconds, but
Can you share the slide deck?
yes. Who should I send it to?
We have the slides that Don provided, so we can make those available to the commission.
So really one quick follow-up. Are there other examples of successful like sober living environment, like communities or like projects? And then, how are they funded?
Yeah, great question. There are other examples up and down the state, and some around the Sacramento area. I think they're really, to my knowledge, they're funded in a variety of ways, and some of that is private. You get something, for example, like the St. John's program for real change. Where'd you go? Okay, yeah, and in Sacramento would be one example of a program like that, and they all have a little different nuances of how they run it and things like that. But they're the funding sources do vary. Some are very, very privately heavy. Others rely more on public funding. We're planning. We really have been thinking about this for a long time. We're like, man, we want the whole enchilada. I'm sorry, I'm greedy. I don't mean all the money. I mean, we want the whole program. So we're going to go find it.
So I know I'm walking a fine line between my commission member and my day job here. But I will tell you, we just saw a presentation about a big pocket of money that's going to be available in a couple of weeks. And as long as it shows a link to economic development, just hint, hint.
Allow me to tell you about the thrift store we're going to open on the place that employs people and runs job training. Yes, so we really could go quite on and on.
The first High Road application is a really easy one.
Fantastic.
So you all should get together and come up with something that could really talk about energy efficient, carbon decarbonization, and ways to transform something that is a filthy, polluting property into something that is a economic driver in our community and could potentially even pilot a new way of living in this community. So, not telling y'all what to do, just making an observation about things that are already on the agenda.
Beautiful. Thank you. I really appreciate the questions.
And if you need people
and
to help you write grants, I know someone who does that.
Okay.
Paul wants to have a public comment too.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of comments to give more specifics to your question. In the Drever Street property, there are 5 units downstairs that could be permanent or temporary supportive housing. And the church needs some rehab to build a commercial kitchen to support the cafe and build a couple of meeting rooms. That could meet the timeline for this year. In addition, part of the reason West Sac Housing is involved is we have a 45-unit complex of studios and 1-bedrooms called Patios de Castillo, and we have offered to give preferences to graduates of this program so that they can move into permanent housing that would fit their needs.
So Paul, stick around when we're done here. I have another source for you. All right, I think that we had one more public comment. I saw someone else get up and pick up a card.
Yes, we do have another public comment from Robin Davis.
I love the idea. I actually follow a couple of tiny home communities, one being in Livermore called Goodness Village, and those were movable tiny homes, tiny home on wheels, that were built by a local company. Another one is Community First Village that's in Texas, Austin, Texas, I believe. And they have a lot of diverse types of housing and housing materials. I think they did like a 3D printed house. And they're tiny as well, which is just more efficient. You're using less materials. And then the tiny home on wheels in Livermore, they're a great example that local municipalities are using as an example. So I'd really suggest checking them out. And then also in addition to creating more housing density is movable tiny home ordinance, implementing that to create more housing density for people to have more opportunity to more housing in general. So we don't have to keep allocating more and more government funds for these types of things. It's desperately needed. But give the power to build back to the people. That's one way to do it with a movable tiny home ordinance. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from the commissioners? All right. I think then I am going to close the public hearing. I forgot I was supposed to gavel open the public hearing. Now I'll close the public hearing. And thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing what you come up with from all of this input.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move on to item number 5, one that hopefully, again, doesn't need too much discussion. Consideration of the resolution 23-1 to set the time and date for our 2023-2024 regular meetings. I think that's you, Nevi. You know, my monitor is so loud, it's like an airplane is taking off, so I just had to turn it off. So you all can see the dates that are before you.
JP's, it was going to explode.
That's okay, I read them before I came, so I'm pretty confident. Looked like every other week, every other month.
Yes, so usually the Economic Development and Housing Commission sets a time and date for the regular meetings for the commission. So I do have a list here from January 25th, 2023 through January 24th, 2024 at 6 p.m. I have this list here, January 25th, March 22nd, May 24th, July 26th, September 27th, November 29th, and January 24th. So, and I made sure that they weren't interfering with any vacation time. That's all.
Any comments from the commissioners on those dates? Hey, Nita, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, we do not.
Okay. And so I do need a motion that we adopt the resolution 23-1 that set the time and date for the commission meetings.
Dan Olson, I move to adopt the dates.
Andrew Kim, second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Olson and seconded by Commissioner Kim. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, and now we are up to our final item on the agenda, requests and comments from the commissioners. This can be a point at which you respectfully ask staff to add something to a future agenda if you choose to do so.
Well, I believe that Commissioner Dawson wanted a tiny homes on wheels presentation in the future.
I believe I heard that too.
So would this be for the new commission that, for the upcoming year?
It would be at some point during those commission meetings that we just listed. They often have items that are very timely and need to come to us. And we want to give our staff plenty of time to prepare for something that is kind of oddball. So it doesn't necessarily mean the next commission meeting, but it is asking for something that would happen this year.
So just a quick note on the presentation. We will have to look into whether that presentation falls within the purview of this commission, because it may be more of a planning commission type of an item. So please let us do some research and get back to you, especially when you're talking about modifications to the municipal code, things of that nature. Or at least parts of it may not be within what our department and the commission is able to act on. So let us do some research, and whatever we can do in terms of providing a presentation that is within the purview of this commission and our department, we will certainly provide. But we will have to get back to you on that one.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any other requests from the commissioners? I have a commissioner announcement. I just want to make sure everybody in this room is aware that the West Sacramento Community Foundation's grants are currently open through the end of February for any 501c3 that serves West Sacramento residents. So, and for everybody watching at home, get your grant application in. All right. Now we will go to staff update.
I do have one staff update. Want to let the commission know that we are hiring a program manager / property manager that is going to specifically be overseeing our home key program at the former Roadway Inn site, 817 West Capitol Avenue. Since the acquisition of that site and the beginning of the home key program, we have been contracting out the property manager maintenance services to Yolo County Housing. Unfortunately, the services that we've gotten from Yolo County Housing have been somewhat lacking. They have been going through a lot of staff changes, a lot of modifications, and they've had their own issues with staffing as well. So the consensus was that we would not continue or look at extending their 2-year contract that we had with them. And in turn decided to bring the positions in-house so that we could have better control over the property manager position, what they did, and what we actually expect that position to do. So a new position was approved by the council back in December. It was posted immediately and was filled last week. That new program manager slash property manager will begin on Monday. It's an existing staff person who is moving from the Community Outreach and Support Division from the Police Department into our department. And they will be, again, managing the Home Key program site and any other future sites that become open that the city may choose to acquire for that same purpose. We're doing the same thing with the maintenance position, but the maintenance position will be living out of the Public Works Department, not our department, but we have also decided to bring that position in-house. That position we're hoping to fill within the next couple of weeks. So there may be a gap between when the Yolo County housing contract expires at the end of this month and when we bring in the maintenance position, but we will have the property manager position covered from day one.
That's awesome. Congratulations on filling a position that quickly. Any other updates? Diane, I saw something on LinkedIn about a new really cool sounding business that moved to town, and I can't remember what it is right now.
Uh-oh.
It's a small startup company, but they were doing something with like using, I don't know, landfill material to make something cool. I'll have to look it up, but doesn't ring a bell with you?
Global Gochins?
No.
Using full extract to make.
Could be.
Was it Glogans? Maybe
So
it was Glogans.
I'll have to look it up, but I just saw it on LinkedIn kind of in passing, and I sent it over to Denise at the chamber and said, hey, do we know them? So let me look that up again. Oh, Elijah's got info.
That may have been a company by the name of Macro Oceans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're utilizing, I honestly don't know much about their process, to be honest with you, but I do know that they utilize seaweed as part of their patented process to use in other materials.
Yeah, they're making bottles or packaging or something with that. I just read a little bit, and I thought this is the coolest thing ever.
Yes. That was promoted on LinkedIn recently, so that's likely the company that you're thinking of.
I'm glad you knew. So
I think that's all the updates we had.
Okay. I want to take this little public moment too and give a shout out to the West Sac Police Department. On Saturday during our food bank distribution, we had a person who was having a really, really, really bad day. And we had to call the police, and they handled her with such care and grace and kindness. It was very impressive to see. So just shout out to West Sac PD for the way they.
Thank you. We will pass that on. I do have one other announcement. Good news. Effective in March, Tracy Michael will become the new Economic Development and Housing Director. She's currently our Parks Director. Some of you have probably met her around town. And she will be assuming the director role May 12th, I believe it is, or March 12th. So, yeah, and I believe she will attend your next meeting in March.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations on filling that role too.
We're excited. It'll be great. She used to work in the redevelopment agency, and she's worked in economic development in Sacramento and many other places. So she brings a lot of experience and relationships already in the community. So she'll be a great leader for our department.
All right. Seeing or hearing no other comments, I think that we can adjourn our meeting at 7:30 and see everybody back here again in March. Meeting adjourned.
Move that we adjourn.
Commissioner Kim, a second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Olson and a second by Commissioner Kim. All in favor?
Aye.